What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something to go to the shop for or not. I'm going to be talking about All-Star Batman number 6. So All-Star Batman number 6 starts off a brand new story arc that's actually pretty unique in the world of Scott Snyder, and it has art by Jock. So this is a rematch of the team that really brought you the Black Mirror. So this is pre-New 52, before Scott Snyder really got onto the main Batman title with Greg Capullo. And this is a world beater. So when we jump into the story, what we see is we actually get kind of this backstory situation where we're talking about this poem, a young boy that was required to recite a poem, memorize it for his elementary school class. And we also get this frozen tundra wasteland where we see Batman traipsing across it. There's this door in the middle of nowhere. It feels like it blends into the actual surroundings around it, like it's just sitting there in the middle of nothingness. And what we see is Batman in this cold suit armor, so he's got to have some sort of heat kind of going on there. One gauntlet basically almost on fire, and this is pretty awesome. There's a very serious poetic influence to this, and it's really carried over in the actual text that goes along with the story. But Batman just comes in, kicks down the door, and what does he find? He finds this abandoned station at the top of the world, above the Arctic Circle. And that is where everything really takes place. The entirety of the staff has been frozen, the actual moisture being pulled from their bodies and crackling as ice. So it basically just destroyed them. Any ounce of water, any molecule of water froze on them instantly. However, as Batman makes his way into the facility, he realizes that he's not alone. And what can only be described as, frozen White Walkers from Game of Thrones coming out of this station, red eyes, basically moving like the dead, like zombies, at the end of the apocalypse. All of a sudden, his suit goes cold. Like he can feel the coil that's wrapped around his left arm just burning into his skin, and then it's over, and there's a voice, but not so much a voice, but more of like an announcement, more like, a broadcast. It's just like, hello, Batman. And it's awesome because you see this very odd-looking Victor Fries coming out there with his goggles and his cold blue skin, and the color palette that's been chosen for this is just choice. It's awesome. So as we kind of get into these things, what we realize is that Victor Fries is up here in the Arctic Circle trying to find the oldest core that's been sampled from the ice cap. And what this houses is a bacteria, a disease that is going to wipe out all of humanity. And so he's created these kind of pods and things like that so that way he can protect himself, and he wants to create a very clean world so that way he can take these kind of things, worry about, work on the reanimation process so that way he can save his wife. And when we find out about his reanimation, the people that are around him, these aren't just corpses, these aren't just the dead. These are over 500 people that have subjected themselves for cryogenesis. So these are the people that were looking to wake up in a better world. And yet they were awoken by Victor Fries to do his bidding. And that's just like super twisted. And I love that. I love that aspect of it too. So this is kind of like this whole thing evolves where he goes through this entire example. We get to see those kind of guys go around, stealing money and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a really interesting kind of concept that goes along with that. And what we find is that, Batman basically gets disarmed by everything. They tear off all his armor, so he's really exposed to this cold. He's going to freeze. And all of a sudden they just kind of like slip into their cold comas because, they're in these pods, they're in these protection things because this heat bomb is going to melt the core and devastate the entire Earth. And then Victor, he's just like, he fades and he can see the city fading into snow and ice and snow. And then all of a sudden he wakes up and it's beautiful and he's got his wife there and he's got, these other undead, revived cryogenesis patients that are there. And there's no words to explain the beauty of the surroundings that he sees. However, he does see one thing, and it's a bat. And a bat, he realizes, is a carrier of disease. That is what makes them so resilient. They have high body temperatures because they just ferociously beat their wings. They have so much activity that they keep their body temperatures up and it burns off the disease that's in them. And then we see Batman. And Batman is like some sort of nuclear orange Holocaust kind of thing. And it's just like, this is just, I'm going to talk about the art in a bit, but the way that the story unfolds is that essentially Batman has previously, he basically woke up Victor Fries. He disabled the ability for them to do anything. That he carried in his own disease to combat the spores that were going to be released, this whole ancient, prehistoric virus that was going to devastate the world. He has his own counteragent that he stored inside his body and that built up his own body temperature, which is absolutely ridiculous. These jets come in, they firebomb the place, and the last thing that we see is Victor realizing that he might have kind of interpreted the poem wrong. he might not have loved the right section of that, as everything gets destroyed around him. Only the pods are the safe space, so he's there with like super nuclear Batman being hugged as his entire plan, his new world, goes up in smoke or mist or steam, because it's superheated water, so it's probably steam. But what we get here is that this is actually the beginning of a story arc for Scott Snyder that's going to take a bunch of different artists, and it's going to go across like the ends of the earth or the ends of the world and stuff like that, which is going to deal with these kind of, super chaotic end time scenario type pieces. And I'm really excited to see where this goes, especially because the way that this is structured in terms of the story, there's not really a whole lot of dialogue. It's not traditional comic book fare, because it really focuses on the prose, it focuses on the story, it focuses on the approach. It's written more like a script or the way that a book would be, but it's illustrated in a phenomenally gritty and chaotic way by Jock. So Jock's art is unique in every sense of the word, and the way that he renders these characters, like the Batman just feels like muscular, in control in his armor, and then as we kind of get to this demonic form towards the end, I just love the transformation that these people take throughout this. These ice zombies are fantastic, and then the way that the entire environment's set up, the way that the texture is created, I just love the art style in general. And then the whole poem aspect, it's just like, for those familiar with Desire, I side with those, that that with Love of Fire. It's like, whatever that is, I didn't have the chance to memorize the poem, but it just really struck a very simple but strong chord, which kind of resonated throughout the rest of the book. So I'm really excited to see where Scott Snyder goes with this entire story arc, and I'd love to see what other kind of spins the different artists for the upcoming books put on their own individual characters, their own individual scenery. But the whole stark situation, the very blank whites, the very dark blacks, the very cool blues, and then that ferocious orange of the fire and of Batman's viral form is just so striking, and I loved every second of this book. It was fantastic. So All-Star Batman number 6 gets a huge thumbs up for me. It is definitely one that I would recommend you guys go grab if you haven't had a chance. Go get it now. It's a great place to jump on. It's a good Batman story. It's Scott Snyder writing it, and Jock is just, you can't miss his art when he tells a Dark Knight story. So highly recommend it for me. Go grab it whenever you have the chance, which is now. Go now, stop the video, go get your book, read it. It's awesome. So that's my review of All-Star Batman number 6, but I want to know what you guys think too, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe right there to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.